I'm Frances Harris, and I'm Community Facilities Advisor at Northamptonshire ACRE. I'm doing the first section, as Sean said, looking at village halls and the Rural Community Buildings Loan Fund. Jenny Hedges, my colleague, who is our rural officer, will be taking over for the second part. Just a quick word about Northamptonshire ACRE for those of you who aren't familiar with us as an organisation. We are an independent charity. We were founded in 1947, and we're the only charity in Northamptonshire to work exclusively with rural communities. We provide support and advice on community development. So that's principally work with organisations like parish councils and community buildings, on things ranging from good neighbour schemes to grant funding. The area I work on is specifically with helping community facilities. That's principally, but not exclusively, community buildings. So things like village and church halls and community centres, but also outside spaces like recreation grounds, playing fields and parks. And the advice I can provide covers things like guidance, so the governing documents of charity, governing documents, trustee roles, applicable law, so things like health and safety and licensing, charity commission regulation, which is particularly important, of course, if your charity is registered. And then we can provide practical help with things like policies. And the subject of the funding fair, we can help with funding suggestions if you're planning a project, and we can also provide help with making grant applications. The support we provide is delivered mainly, but not solely, through two distinct membership schemes that we run. One is for parish councils, the other is for community facilities. The parish council membership is centred very much around community engagement, so things like rural housing enabling, good neighbour schemes, community transport schemes, so things such as that, whereas community facilities is more about the management of physical facilities such as community buildings, but also the management of the organisations, mainly charities, who run those facilities. Both memberships run are yearly and run from March until April. A slight difference in the membership fee. It's £40 for community facilities and £35 for parish councils. I haven't given a full list of all the benefits there. There's not enough room, but one of the main ones is up to 5 hours free advice, and that can be on the phone or by means of online or in-person meetings. Northamptonshire ACRE is a member of what's known as the ACRE Network, and that's a network of 38 charities and there's one in each county in England, so they're equivalent to us, Northamptonshire ACRE, here in Northamptonshire. And as I say, together we form the ACRE Network, and this is in part funded by DEFRA. Our umbrella body is called, I refer to as National ACRE, and ACRE stands for Action with Communities in Rural England. Before moving on to the Rural Community Buildings Loan Fund, I do just want to talk briefly about the Platinum Jubilee Fund, which was a big help to community facilities for the 3 years that it was up and running. It was established in 2022 to mark the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It's a £3 million DEFRA fund, and it is just coming to an end now, I'm afraid to say. It provided grants for community building capital improvements. We're hopeful that it might reopen, and we believe that DEFRA might have plans for providing some sort of similar financial help for community facilities, but we don't have word yet. As soon as I know, I will be able to update everyone, and updates will be given on our website. I want to look at a case study And this is a case study of one of a successful applicant to the Platinum Jubilee Fund. And this is a hall in Northamptonshire, Clipston Village Hall, who did really well to secure quite a meaty grant of £45,000 in the up against actually very great competition. It was a very, very competitive fund to apply to. And I think I'm just going to go through this briefly, because if you are planning a capital project, I think what I'm going to share with you, you might find helpful. Clipston Village Hall is owned and managed by the Clipston Village Hall Committee. It's an unincorporated charitable trust. The grant they secured from the Platinum Jubilee Fund was £45,000, and that was the equivalent of 20% of eligible project costs. Their total project costs were £275,000 or thereabouts. The point being with the Platinum Jubilee Fund that it would only fund up to 20% of eligible project costs. So the balance, the 80%, had to be found from elsewhere. And you can see here the variety of funding that the committee had to knit together to reach their funding target. So as well as the Platinum Jubilee Fund, they got funds from grants from the National Lottery Community Fund, Garfield Weston and Bernard Sumley. Both of those foundations are very, very supportive of community buildings. The Biffa Award here in Northamptonshire, again, very supportive of community buildings if you're lucky enough to be within their locality. And then also Kelmarsh Wind Farm, Clipston Parish Council, Market Harbour Building Society, and East Midlands Railway. So you can see that for a big project like this, you have to go to a very wide range of funders to get the funding that you need. And even for more modest projects of up to, say, £50,000, you will have to go to a variety of different funders to reach your fundraising target. So the work carried out with this funding, I won't read all of it, but you know, the roof was improved, damp proofing, insulation, new windows, new ramped access, energy efficiency improvements, very important at the moment in terms of the longer term saving on your energy bills. So the installation of solar panels with battery storage. So a lot of very worthwhile work was done to enhance the building. And I thought it would just be helpful to look at the timeline for this project. The building was acquired in 1972. It was purchased on behalf of the community, and that's the date on which it became a village hall. Before then, it had been a school, and for a short while, for some time, a church hall. And the building actually was constructed in 1862. Now, from 1972 onwards, there were extensive discussions because of the age of the building about how to improve it. And this really only came together in 2017 when the current committee kick-started an extensive period of community consultation about what to do. And this largely centred around a discussion about whether to build a new building from scratch on the same site, but obviously knocking down the old building, or enhancing the existing building. And in 2020, the decision was made to enhance the existing building. By 2022, a design for the enhancement was agreed and signed off by the village. And then it took a further 2 years to obtain planning permission and secure funding. And then the project itself, the actual building works, took just under 6 months, starting in May 2024 and finishing in October 2024 when the enhanced building had its official opening. Now, I've gone into some detail with this because you'll see how long it takes for a project like this to come to fruition, and that is not unusual. And you'll have seen there over 40 years of discussions about, well, how do we go about improving the building before the decision was taken in 2017 to actually do something about it. And then a further, coming up to 5 years before the decision, before the actual design itself was agreed and signed off. Now, obviously, you can see there that the dates, some of those dates coincided with COVID, and that undoubtedly had an impact in terms of delaying things. But it isn't untypical for a project such as this to take this long, but for the actual building work itself to be comparatively quick. So just some before and after photographs I thought you might be interested in. The top row is the hall, the main hall before and then afterwards. You can see greatly improved the decorating, the heating. They've got new infrared heating, which is on the ceiling. So getting rid of the old wall-mounted storage heaters on the sides. And then the kitchen there, you can see a huge difference there. So they've ended up now, they've got a commercial standard kitchen. And then again, their toilet facilities greatly improved. And then not such huge changes to the outside. You can see the improved ramp up to the main entrance, but cosmetically big changes made to the building to make it look much smarter and much more attractive. So now I'm going to come on to the Rural Community Buildings Loan Fund, which I hope could be of help to those of you who may be planning a project. This is a loan fund. It's not a grant fund. It makes loans available to help community buildings fill temporary gaps in funding. It makes funds available immediately, allowing works to be done immediately, and it offers a flexible, easy to understand repayment system. It's a DEFRA fund, which started way back in the 1930s and is worth £700,000. It's managed by National ACRE, that umbrella body I mentioned a while back. And on average, up to between 10 to 14 new loans are made each year, averaging around about £15,000. In terms of who can apply, well, any community group which manages a building which is widely used by the community, so things like village and parish halls, community centres, reading rooms and church halls. The key thing here is wide community use. So, for example, you could have a building which has sports facilities, so changing rooms and showers, but is also combines with being a community building, a village hall, say, and with that combined use, it would qualify to apply for a fund, a loan. So what can a loan be used for? It can be used for emergency repairs, which is really handy because quite often many grant funders won't fund repairs. It can be used for extensions and renovations, and it can be used to help with construction of new builds. And again, that is helpful because many grant funders exclude new buildings and will only give grants for improvements to existing buildings. But where I think it can be particularly helpful is in aiding cash flow on large projects. So if you look back or think back to the case study I showed you with Clipston Village Hall, which had grants coming in from 9 different sources, the difficulty is that those grants will be paid at different times by different grant funders. And the time when the grant funding comes in won't necessarily coincide with the time when you have to pay your contractor or contractors. And that can lead to short-term cash flow issues. And this is where a loan from the Rural Community Buildings Fund can help. So you acquire a loan, it sits in your bank account, and then you draw upon it on those occasions when you have to pay your contractor, but the grant funding hasn't yet come in. But one thing that's worth noting is it can't be used for fixtures and fittings, but you can apply for a loan even if your project has started, which typically, as you'll know, you can't do with most grants. So the procedure for applying is very straightforward. You can apply initially either via us, Northamptonshire ACRE, or directly to National ACRE. National ACRE supplies the relevant paperwork, in other words, the application form. Northamptonshire ACRE then will provide guidance and help with completing that application form. Northamptonshire ACRE submits the application and supporting paperwork to National ACRE. National ACRE assesses it, and the decision is made by ACRE as to whether or not to give a loan. So it's actually quite a quick, easy procedure, and if needed, this could be done in a couple of weeks if there were a degree of urgency to the application. And there are no application deadlines. You can apply any time. And the conditions of the fund are that it will make loans of up to £20,000. The average loan is less than that. But the applicant does need to own the property either on a freehold or a leasehold basis. If leasehold, then there does need to be, the term of the lease does need to have at least 21 years to run. And the loan plus interest can be repaid within 5 or 8 years. And there are no penalties for early repayment. So with that example I gave with where it can help with short-term cash flow problems on a big build project, typically what you'll do is draw upon the loan to meet that cash flow problem and then immediately repay it once all the grant funding comes in, and there are no penalties for doing so, unlike if you were to secure a loan from a commercial lender. So I've just put contact details there. That on the left you can see National ACREs, and on the right there are our contact details for Northamptonshire ACRE. And that's it from me. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now, and I'd be delighted to answer any questions at the end of the session if you have any.
Thank you, Frances. That's really very full and very interesting, particularly for those who are in the room, I'm sure. Right. I know that Jenny has just left and will be rejoining. Her screen went pink for some reason, which was very interesting. So let's see if they've got any questions from the room now. We are a small enough group that just you can use the raise your hand button for those of you new to Teams at the top of the screen. I'll just raise my hand and you'll see I get a little yellow palm come up. That's one way of doing it. Any questions from anybody in the room? If not, we'll go on to Jenny's presentation and then we'll come back and you can ask questions there when we're done. And a reminder that you can turn your camera off if you don't want to be recorded for these sessions. So, Jenny, over to you, please. Thank you.
Presentation.
And it's good to see that you're not pink any longer.
I know. I went sustainable food place pink. I was on brand.
Indeed.
Apologies, I've got a really hoarse voice. I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm a bit husky, but it's staying around, so hopefully my voice will stay till the end of the presentation. I'm Jenny. I'm the coordinator for the Northants Sustainable Food Network, and I also work for Northamptonshire ACRE with Frances as a rural officer. Sustainable food places have been around for over 10 years now, and there's a network of over 100 around the UK. It's a cross-sector partnership working to transform local food systems. So we're committed to creating healthy, resilient and equitable food systems for people and for the environment. We look at all sorts of factors, including things like local food production, reducing food waste and improving people's access to nutritious, affordable food. We collaborate between local governments, businesses, charities and communities to address things like food poverty and environmental sustainability and public health. And we're trying to build a food culture that supports local farmers, businesses, encourages healthy eating, and ensures long-term food security for future generations as well. So we're really looking at food as a whole system. So Northamptonshire ACRE and Made in Northamptonshire set up the Northants Sustainable Food Network in 2021, and since then it's grown to a wider partnership which includes Groundwork and Sean, Public Health, the Northants Council Community Team, voluntary sector organisations, the North Northamptonshire Food Bank Group, and food producers as well. And our aim is to make North Northamptonshire a sustainable food place. Our original aim, sorry, was to make North Northampton a sustainable food place, and we are actually a member and a full member, and we're our bronze award at the moment. So our mission is to ensure that North Northamptonshire is a sustainable food place where everyone can afford healthy, local, affordable food. Communities can come together to shape their local food environment, and where together we can work together towards the eradication of poverty and insecurity. So there's quite a big mission there, and it obviously encompasses lots of different things. So what we've done is we've created a whole food system approach to that. So our mission is in the middle, and around the outside there's lots of boxes which encapsulate the different areas that we're working on. So I'll start on the right hand side. We want to develop a good food movement from pregnancy through the life course to older age. Community food initiatives, so enabling communities to engage with their local food environment, and that encompasses things like community orchards and allotments. We want to create an environment that provides access to healthy food, so we've got our map of environmental food businesses and organisations, but we're also looking at things like diet-related health, food deserts, food swamps, retailers and producers, and planning initiatives as well. We're looking at the food economy, so that's things like food retail, tourism and economic development plans, and making sure that there are more healthy, sustainable options available in the food chain. We want to involve education settings from 0 to 19 to raise awareness and engage with children and families, and that's looking at things like growing and training and skills development. We're looking at food catering, so that's where our food comes from, working with people like restaurants, providers, the NHS and the council's own provision for food. Reduction of food waste, so that encompasses sustainable farming, food waste reduction, community larders, and also some of the sharing apps where we can share food that would otherwise go to landfill. We're looking at food poverty, so that's things like food banks, the food poverty network, and ensuring that our social food provision is high quality, looking at things like Healthy Start, free school meals, and wider plans and policies there as well. To provide information and training, informing professionals and other voluntary organisations on sources of help, and have workshops, webinars, and share knowledge. And we have a steering group, which is our strategic collaborative partnership and engagement box at the top there. So that's really about networking, but having a key group of people which are interested in food in North Northants working together to try and change the system. And then we have a communication and marketing strand. So that's really about awareness and ensuring that individuals, communities and workplaces are all aware of the issues and things that they can do. Also to make sure that we're promoting what we're doing to the public as well. And then finally, this all feeds into climate and climate change strategy. So campaigning and training. And then, of course, reduce, redirect and recycle, and promoting food growing spaces in new developments as well. So that's the big picture of all of the things we want to do. And so what we're aiming to do is get subgroups for each of these strands, so that people that have an interest in, for example, food procurement and catering can come together and create a space where we can start to change food procurement and catering in Northamptonshire. And the same for things like food poverty, or for developing a good food. So these are all sort of areas that we're working on as a bigger picture. If you go onto our website, we have a very helpful map, which is made up of lots of different organisations which are sustainable. So we've got community cafes, food banks, food larders, farm shops, refill shops, places where you could take food waste, community gardens, cafes, pubs and hospitality, and then also our amazing food manufacturers and farmers. So we have some really interesting manufacturers in North Northamptonshire, including goat ice cream and even a blueberry farm. So it's worth having a look and seeing what's in your neighbourhood, and you might discover something new and interesting. Secured a grant from the National Lottery Community Fund for a year to develop the network. So as part of that, we're going to be running a buy local campaign. We're going to be gathering people's food stories about what food means to them, delivering training, growing our steering group and setting up those thematic groups that I talked about earlier. We'd like to include more people on our sustainable food map. We'll be opening up our communication and publicity for the network as well. And as part of it, we're going to be applying for our Bronze Sustainable Food Place Award with the Sustainable Food Places. A little bit more about how people can get involved with us. This is a copy of our charter, which is on our website. And it's really about what people can do to get involved with the network. So if you joined us as a member of the network as an organisation, this is how you get involved. So what we ask is for you to commit to a couple of sustainable pledges, which are on the left. So that could be writing a blog post or an article about your business for us to share, or volunteering your time at a community growing project, introducing your staff or your customers. So we ask you to make a couple of sustainable pledges. And then in return, you can publicise your business or organisation for free through our network. You can add your organisation to our sustainable food map. You'll be able to access workshops and training and get the latest news and information from our newsletter. And also you'd be just helping us reshape the food network in North Northamptonshire, joining a really supportive network of like-minded organisations. So if you're not a business and you'd like to get involved, you can join us in our steering group. You can sign up to receive our newsletter, which if you can get onto our website, there's a very handy link for joining up and signing up there to get the latest news. You can follow us on social media, and there's some contact information at the bottom there, but I've also put it into the chat in here as well.